So I'm very excited to have our first webinar with the University of Otago on their Master of International Studies program. We have here joining us Professor Philip, and we also have Will from the University of Otago. So they're on the webcams right now. Great.
Hey guys.
Hi, good afternoon everyone.
Okay, so essentially right before, so we're going to jump into the Master of International Studies, but we wanted to give everyone a chance to kind of learn a little bit about global links. I know we have some potential students in attendance of the webinar that are kind of from all over the world, but this kind of gives you an idea of who we are and kind of why we do what we do. So we are a representative of the University of Otago and 24 other institutions in Australia, New Zealand, and the United Kingdom. We've been working with study abroad students for almost 25 years now, so we have a lot of experience, and we really want to make sure to provide students the best support possible. So kind of what our first step is with students is to help students apply. So if you do decide to apply to the Master of International Studies program, you will be able to apply through Global Links if you're in North America. We do provide free support and enrollment assistance for both U.S. and Canadian students, so we'll definitely be here to kind of assist you. Okay, so kind of a little bit about what Global Links does. Again, we are your partner and we're your kind of application center. So we're going to be here closer in your time zone to answer questions and connect you with the resources to help you prepare for your degree abroad. We also have the ability to certify academic transcripts, obtain application fee waivers, and then for students applying to many of our overseas partners, we're also going to help you get answers to your questions, potentially even secure faster admission decisions. We also provide an in-country orientation, which is pretty great. And that in-country orientation is called our Bridging Cultures Orientation Program. It's typically about 4 to 6 days long. The nice thing is if you do decide to go to New Zealand, it is the full 6 days. And for New Zealand, you'll get to be in an interesting location within your host country. In New Zealand, we stay up on the North Island. We also have some pretty exciting excursions and activities, and the nice thing is this is open to all students that apply through Global Links, and it is free. So we just ask that you apply through us, and we'll be able to provide you all that support. So now I would like to hand it over to Will. I'm going to go ahead and turn off my webcam and let Will and Professor Philip join us. So let me just hand over the screen. And and just one thing, just so you guys know, I know you have tons of questions. We are going to do a question and answer session at the end, so definitely make sure to write down all your questions. Okay, so just did this. So I'm going to make Will. Okay, Will, all yours. Oh, doesn't look like we can hear you, Will.
All right. Is that better?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, great. All right. Minimize this here. Okay. All right, good afternoon everyone. I'm Will Tregetter. I'm from the International Office at the University of Otago. And what we're going to do today is we're going to talk a little bit about the Master of International Studies, as well as just giving you an introduction to the University of Otago. So first up, I'm going to offer an introduction to the university, and then Professor Mel is going to speak a little bit about the program itself and what the Master of International Studies involves. Okay. Let's see. So, University of Otago in New Zealand, I'm responsible for our recruitment in North America and Europe, and I also studied at the University of Otago. I did my bachelor degree here, and in fact this semester I've just enrolled in the Master of International Studies as well. So I do have some first-hand knowledge about this great program. Just to give you an idea of University of Otago in New Zealand, the University of Otago is in the South Island of New Zealand. New Zealand has a population of 4.3 million. The breakdown by ethnicity right here, 68% European, 15% Māori, 9% Asian, 7% Pacific Islander. The Māori population, that's the indigenous population of New Zealand. New Zealand's a bicultural country officially. Very interesting. If you're looking to come to another country, you're interested in other cultures, New Zealand adds that interesting dynamic of having two different cultures living side by side with equal rights within the country itself, New Zealand there. The photo right there is of a marae, a Māori marae, and you can see 3 different generations there. So coming to New Zealand, it's going to be different from wherever you happen to be, if you're from North America, Europe. Now New Zealand's a very egalitarian country and very progressive. First country in the world where women were able to vote, for example. So New Zealand is a world leader in many aspects, and also ranked #1 in the world for education, which is particularly important here for the Master of International Studies. Okay, so a little bit about New Zealand and what you know about New Zealand. I'm sure everyone's seen Lord of the Rings and seen the beautiful scenery that we have in New Zealand. So I'm just going to give you a little bit of a tour right now throughout the country so you can see some of those beautiful scenes. So starting off on the North Island. This is an active volcano in this picture right here. This is the Tongariro Crossing. This is a fantastic hike that takes you 8 hours across the mountains of New Zealand in the North Island. Really beautiful. I took this photo 3 years ago when I was on a hiking trip with my brother. Active volcano, you can see the steam rising there in the center and everything like that. But coming down to the South Island, right here on the right-hand side of the arrow I have across the South Island, that is where Dunedin is, and that's where the University of Otago is located. A really nice city. We have 120,000 people living in the city, so not too large, and the main activity of the city is education. So the university is front and center in the city, and it's the main employer in the city. So the city is basically built for the university. So it has that real sense of community. In fact, right here on the picture of the city here, you can see it's actually quite beautiful on the ocean side. You can see that we have the campus right down here, where the cursor is right now. And we also have the city centre down here, right next to. No more than 10 minutes walk from the city centre to the campus. And most of the students live around the campus. And then you can see right on your doorstep you have hills, harbour, the ocean, so plenty to do in your free time as well. The photo there is of 2 people down at the beach, just to off the side of the photo there, within 15 minutes drive of campus. You've got St. Clair Beach with its restaurants, surf school, and beautiful golden sand beaches down there. Really cool thing about New Zealand though, if you're travelling, you can travel 5 hours and cross 5 very distinct environments just within the short space from where the university is. So if we go 1 hour inland, we leave the oceanside environment, the urban environment, and we end up coming into a rural environment. And over there we have sheep farming, as you're going to see on this picture that's loading right now, and rugby right there. So the things that people often associate with New Zealand. And okay. And then another hour inland, this is what it looks like. We travel from the farmland into the dry zone. This area is essentially a desert. It's extremely dry. This is where they filmed a lot of Lord of the Rings out here in the tussock grasslands and the schist of central Otago. great area. It's mountain biking, hiking. It's where they invented bungee jumping. Whitewater rafting is done there as well. So it's really quite an area for having fun on the weekends. Skiing, exactly. So, and then you go 3 hours inland and you end up in the alpine environment. So in the alpine environment we have skiing and snowboarding. These people here are obviously heli skiing, but this is the Southern Hemisphere's #1 skiing and snowboarding area. You've got 4 large ski resorts right up there in the mountains of New Zealand. Also down in the valley, that's where the bungee jumping was invented by A.J. Hackett. You've got a winery region. You've got all of this right on our doorstep, which is an easy weekend trip from the university. And then if we carry on going west, we end up on the west coast. Now the west coast is where I grew up. This is where you have subtropical rainforest. You've got an environment where you're getting 4 meters of rain a year. It's very wet. You can drink the water straight out of the streams. You can see all the moss coming out of the trees there, the big fern trees as well. So on the other side of the mountains, you've just crossed over from what is essentially a desert into the mountains and then onto the west coast where it's extremely wet, lush, subtropical rainforest, and hardly any people live over there as well. So yeah, quite a diverse environment, and that's all within a 5-hour drive across the country from where we are on the east coast of the South Island over onto the west coast. On the west coast you'll also see other scenes as well. Within the rainforest it's punctuated by glaciers, ice, rivers flowing off the mountains, and this photo that I've got up on the screen right now is Franz Josef Glacier on the west coast there. And we also have old glaciers. So where 10 million years ago during the Ice Age, the ice carved out and the topography of certain areas, we have what you're going to see on the photo right now, which is a photo of the fjords of New Zealand. This is Milford Sound. That's only within 4 hours drive of the campus, so this is all accessible, beautiful locations as well, right on your doorstep in Dunedin. So just going back to the city of Dunedin, back on the east coast, I've got a map up there, you can see it, in the southeast of New Zealand. Dunedin's Gaelic, meaning Edinburgh of the South, the Dun Edin in Gaelic, Edinburgh of the South. The Scots settled here, so when New Zealand was first settled by the European settlers, they came to this harbour that we have here and thought, wow, water, harbour surrounded by hills, looks very much like Edinburgh where we came from, or some of us came from back in Scotland. So they settled here. And Dunedin very quickly became the most important city in New Zealand back in the 19th century, built on a gold rush similar to San Francisco over in the US, around about the same time as well. So Dunedin became very important in New Zealand. Still important today, but a much smaller city. For example, you've probably heard of Auckland, our largest city. Auckland has 1.2 million people. In Dunedin, we're about 120,000 people. But Dunedin is the education capital of New Zealand because of the University of Otago. The University of Otago is New Zealand's oldest university, and today the population of Dunedin is composed of 20% of the population are actually students. So we have a big student population here, and they tend to all live around the campus as well. So we have a very good sense of student community. Everything's walking distance, as I said before, and also the opportunities for skiing and exploring the outdoors. Here's another view of the city. You can see here in the foreground you have the university down here. That's the old part of the campus that was established in the 19th century, as well as newer buildings surrounding the older buildings here. The campus actually extends down into right adjacent to the city centre. So there isn't a defined campus. It's not like the campus is cut off from the city. The campus is integrated into the city. And the main shopping district is there on the upper right-hand side of the picture. So you can see just 2 blocks from Central Campus. At the harbour there, and the beaches off in the distance there, Here's another view of those beaches that I'm showing right now, and you can see the surf school getting out there and enjoying the surf on a summer's day in Dunedin. Also, just out of the city, within 15 minutes drive, we have New Zealand's only castle, Larnac Castle. It's up on top of the peninsula. That beautiful view right there is the Otago Peninsula, which is just outside of the city of Dunedin. Very easy to reach in the evenings or afternoons after classes. And on the beaches around Dunedin, we have some amazing wildlife. Dunedin, as well as being an education capital, is also an ecotourism centre. So we have sea lions on our beaches, and we also have penguins. Yellow-eyed penguins. They're about this tall, and they live on the beaches, and they come in at night, and you can go down any day and see them, as well as albatross, largest birds that you ever find, large wingspan of 2 to 3 metres, huge birds, and the only mainland breeding colony out at the very end of the peninsula there. So you have quite interesting things to see right there on your doorstep in free time. Okay, so a little bit about the university before we start talking about the Master of International Studies with Professor Nell. The University of Otago is New Zealand's first university, established in 1869. The photo that you have coming up on your screen right now, that's of the clock tower building. So you can see the clock tower is it's an older style building. This was built way back in the 19th century. So Otago has a very nice campus. In fact, the Huffington Post and the Daily Telegraph newspaper in the UK ranked Otago's campus as one of the most beautiful 16 in the world. So Otago is definitely up there in terms of the beauty of the campus that you'll be studying in. It's a true university city. In fact, Otago, or Dunedin, the city of Dunedin, is the only true student city in Australasia. And 80% of our students come from out of town. So you won't feel like you're coming in as an outsider to Otago. In fact, 80% of our students are not from Otago originally. So you're joining other students from all around New Zealand and the world. Okay, so just a wee bit of a photo tour of this beautiful campus that we're on right now. Here's some photos I took last year. So the first photo that you're looking at there is the magnolia and cherry blossoms on campus looking out towards the clock tower building. And the next photo we have coming up right there is in the centre of campus, in the heart of campus, where we just actually had a Master of International Studies class photo taken yesterday in front of the clock tower. You have geology there on the left, as well as the clock tower building on the right. And we're actually speaking to you from the very end of where this photo was taken. Coming up on your screens right now. This is the International office. So we're speaking to you from the window in the centre of that photo. This photo was actually taken in September. So if you're in the Northern Hemisphere right now, you're looking at what it looks like for us in the opposite season. So this is what it looks like in September. Right now we're hitting autumn and the leaves are falling on the trees. Here's another photo coming up for you right now next to the river on campus. You can see students enjoying a sunny spring day in September next to the river right there. And finally, one photo from actually April 2 years ago. I took this photo. This is what it looks like on campus about now, with the leaves changing colour next to the river. Okay. So just to talk about the university in terms of how many students are there at Otago and what does it look like. Well, we have about 20,000 students at the University of Otago, and 2,648 are international students from 96 different countries. The top 10 countries of origin of our international students I have listed there. You'll see the US is at the top, but at any one time we've probably got around about 300 US students on campus, because many of those US students are here for a semester. And we have quite a number of US students here for master's degrees as well, such as the Master of International Studies. And at the moment, I think we have 22 22 students in the Master of International Studies. So a much smaller class, a great opportunity to have better discussions in class and get more time with the professors in each of the different aspects of the Master of International Studies. And a very diverse group. I was sitting next to a student from Indonesia yesterday. I had a student from China behind me. We have a Canadian student and other students from all around the world within the Master of International Studies at the moment. 4,000 of the 20,000 students are postgraduate students. Right, next photo that's coming up, just after that slide, is our library. That's a fantastic place to study. It's won International Design Awards. It's very light and spacious. So it's not your dark library that is quite common. It's a really great place to study on campus. So as well as the old buildings, we also have cutting-edge modern buildings on campus as well. All right, so where does Otago fit within the world? What is the ranking of Otago? Is Otago a good university? Well, overall, Otago is a fantastic university. In fact, the QS World Rankings rank Otago in the top 150 universities in the entire world. We're New Zealand's top-ranked university for a single subject area, psychology, but if you look at our top 100 rankings in the entire university, you see psychology, history, law, English language and literature are right up there in the top 50 universities in the world. That plays into the Master of International Studies because the Master of International Studies is a cross-disciplinary master's degree, so you can see these strengths that we have in the humanities and liberal arts really transfer over to international studies and make this graduate course that we have particularly special and a particular strength of Otago's. Before we start talking about Master of International Studies, I'm just going to talk a little bit about accommodation because you probably want to know where can I live in Dunedin. I really recommend living within the student area surrounding the campus. We have university flats, and this is self-catered accommodation. We also have catered accommodation in a residential college called Abbey College. But if you want to live and cook your own food and live with other students in a small, in a house where everyone has their own room and you share the kitchen and dining room and everything, all of your neighbours might be students. We have university flats, and we have particular flats for postgraduate students. So you can live with other postgraduate students rather than students who might be around about 18 or 20 years old. You can live with other students around about your age who are also studying postgraduate qualifications at Otago. We try and put at least one New Zealander into each of these flats. We call them the Kiwi host, and they're there to give you an introduction to New Zealand culture and make you feel at home and learn about New Zealand culture as well. We have support associated with these university flats. They have their own sports teams. Also, we gather together for group dinners with different flats around. So there's a real community that's associated with living in university flats, getting groups of students who are from overseas, but also the Kiwi hosts all together. So you feel part of a living community as well as the student community within the classes of Master of International Studies. There's some photos of some of the flats right there. So some of them are older style, like the one in the centre there. Some of them are newer style, like the one on the left, connected units connected to other flats as well. Okay, so services and support. We took a survey of our students last year at our university. In fact, 7 of New Zealand's 8 universities did this last year. We had a British company which came in and they surveyed our students, hundreds of our international students, and asked them many questions about many facets of their experience here studying and living at Otago. So, and Otago, well, not surprisingly, because we are the only student city in New Zealand, Otago is ranked #1 in all 4 areas. So from the orientation, when you first arrive on the plane to Dunedin or by bus to Dunedin, the welcome that you get, the living environment, so that's the university flats or Abbey College, the support that we provide, as well as the learning, the quality of the learning on campus as well. Otago was ranked #1 by our students compared with all of the other surveys from the other New Zealand universities. So that's a pretty good unbiased view of what it's like to be a student here at Otago. Our office here, the International Office, we provide support. We have an orientation program when you first arrive to introduce you to life in Dunedin and where support is available from our office and the wider university. We have 100 different clubs and societies on campus as well. Because we're a student city, the student society is the most active of any university in New Zealand. So if you have a sport that you play at home, even if it's something like ultimate frisbee, which is not seen too much outside of the US, we actually play ultimate frisbee here at Otago as well. So we have many different sports that you can get involved in, different courses you can take in your spare time in terms of like jewellery making or something like that. As well as 24-hour computer labs and wireless throughout the campus. Just got some more photos there. All right, and I just want to finish up introducing you to Otago with a photo right here. The photo is of our new gym. So the right-hand half of that brand new limestone building you can see there is the gym, and it's the largest of any university in New Zealand. Fantastic facility, just opened 2 years ago. It's brand new, and I've never seen it completely in use. So there's always machines available in the cardio area or the weights area, the playing surfaces for basketball, volleyball, group fitness classes, indoor soccer, netball, badminton. It's all right there, and there's always space available for students. It's connected to New Zealand's only covered stadium, and you can see the photo there on the right of inside the stadium, and that's where you'd go and dress in blue and gold as an Otago student and support our local rugby team, the Otago Highlanders. All right, now I'm going to pass over to Philip, and he's going to talk about the Master of International Studies. And Philip, please go ahead.
Thank you, Will, and good afternoon, everyone. Yeah, you would immediately notice that I sound a bit different from Will, and the reason is that I'm originally from South Africa. I moved to Dunedin 11 years ago because I found the campus and the city and this country is so attractive that I decided to move halfway around the world to pursue a further academic career here. So when I arrived here 11 years ago, the Masters of International Studies program was already underway for 3 years, so we're in our 14th year this year. And one of the reasons why I decided to come here was because of this attractive program, which provides opportunity for students to improve their skills and also learn new skills in a variety of disciplines. So it's a true multidisciplinary program, and over the past 14 years we've had a large number of alumni passing through our lecture halls. Some of them, 30 of them, went on to do a PhD, so it's not an academic program that one can see as a dead-end street. It's actually a program that allows you to pursue further study once you've completed it. Shall I use this? So there you have some background that I've just told you about. If you're interested to find out more about the program, we do have a website listed on the slide. There's also a Facebook page, and at the end we'll repeat the website address if you missed it now. Now, as I said before, it's a multidisciplinary program, so we cover 4 disciplines. Students do taught papers in international politics, and I'm also responsible for teaching that this year. Students do a paper, or what we call a course, in international law. These 2 are always presented during our first semester. Our first semester runs from February to June. Our academic year is a bit different from what you have in the northern hemisphere. So our academic year runs from February to November. So the first semester is from February, late February, to June. And international law and international politics always presented during that first semester. Then during the second semester, students do global economy and also global peace and conflict studies. So these 4 taught papers make up 120 points of a total of 180 points that you need to gain in one calendar year, 12 months, to get this degree. The rest of the points, 60 points, made up of a dissertation, the length 20,000 words, and it can be on any topic of your choice as long as it has a clear international dimension to it. What's attractive about the program is not only the breadth of the fields that we cover, but also the depth of, I think, the learning experience that you would encounter. And this learning experience is made up of traditional forms of assessment, such as essays. We also have exams, but staff also try and introduce new and exciting forms of assessment, such as a simulation exercise. For instance, in international politics this year, we run a simulation exercise on climate change negotiations leading up to the COP20 meeting in Peru later on this year. And group or individual presentations, we even organize some debates, formal and informal debates in class, but also between the Masters of International Studies students and other student groups on campus. So quite a variety of learning experiences adds to the attractiveness of this program. Now, the entry requirements, we have over the years found that students who have no background in either of the, or any of the 4 subjects making up the 4 taught papers, that those students are not necessarily disqualified or that they find themselves in a disadvantaged position. As long as you have a willingness to learn, which we measure in terms of how well you've done in your first degree, we think that you can make a success of this. The lecturers do their utmost to try and start from a level that would accommodate anyone with any background. So we've had students who have sciences backgrounds, we have students who've done medical health sciences before, we have students who've done education degrees, and they've all made a success of it. So don't be put off by the fact that we present advanced courses on a number of disciplines, even though you may not have background in those disciplines. Mm-hmm. What is important is that we measure your potential for performance in terms of how well you did in the final year of your B degree. Say you did a 4-year B degree in the United States, your last year subjects that you took on that level, on that advanced level, would be assessed, and if you meet a certain minimum requirement of GPA of 3 out of 4, we will accept you into the program. So no prior study in any of the 4 disciplines required. Now, in terms of scholarships, the University of Otago has a number of taught masters scholarships for which students compete in an open competition. So across all the disciplines and all the divisions of the university that offer a taught master, students can compete for a relatively small number of scholarships. But we are in a fortunate position that from this year on, for the next 3 years, we can at least offer 1 scholarship to a US-based student. By that we may mean a student who is a citizen or a permanent resident of the United States of America. This scholarship was kindly donated to us by alumni of the university who live and work in the United States. So it's funded by our alumni registered body in the United States of America. And the idea is to identify and to qualify people who can act as true ambassadors, not only of the United States while they're here in New Zealand, but once they've completed their study, to go back to the United States or elsewhere in the world and to act as true ambassadors of the University of Otago, New Zealand, and of the program of international studies. So we're looking for people who've done well in their tertiary study up to date, and we will also assess this person's ability to act as a good ambassador, as I said. The current value of the scholarship is $18,000 US. Depending on the exchange rate, that would be enough to cover the international fee attached to the Master of International Studies, which is roughly about 25,000 New Zealand dollars at the moment. But there will be something left over that the student can then spend on paying for accommodation or other expenses that they have locally. If you, excuse me, if you want to apply, you're welcome to send an application letter plus a CV to the director of the program, to myself, and we would also ask you to arrange for 2 letters of reference to be sent to me. We do have closing dates, but because we need to make decisions in time for the start of the next semester, you're welcome to join the program during any semester. Sorry, excuse me. And then you can apply for the scholarship during that semester. Do you have a glass of water? I just need to take a glass of water. We do have a committee that will assess students, and we will let you know as soon as possible afterwards. Thank you all. Good, I think that's all that I have to say about the Masters of International Studies. International Studies is an accepted multidisciplinary field of study, one can say, internationally. There's the International Studies Association. Some of you may know about this association that meets annually in the United States and in Canada. Many of the teachers involved in the program do go to the conferences of the International Studies Association, and we draw in that broader association also on a variety of disciplines. So international studies, although it's not a discipline itself, it's a multidisciplinary field of study. It is well established and an exciting field to study.
And just as I mentioned at the start, I'm studying the Master of International Studies at the moment. I'm an environmental scientist, so I'm one of those students that Professor Nell was talking about who came from a scientific background, something completely unrelated to politics, law, economics, or peace and conflict studies. So I've come from science into humanities. And that's fine. I'm not finding the classes above my head. It's not, I don't feel as though I'm missing out because I haven't studied humanities subjects in my background. So what we have there is we have my email address. If you want details, if you're from the US and you want details on the Master of International Studies Alumni of America Scholarship, please email me. I can send that to you. As well as on the website, you're going to find all of that information about the course itself. So the website's right up there on your screen at the moment. So I think that's about it from us at the moment. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to hand over to Kim back at Global Links, and we'll take questions.
Great. Okay. So, oh shoot. I always mess up. Just a second. Okay. So let me real quick just get to our last page. Okay, anyway, here is kind of the last page. You'll see that we have all of our contact details listed along with our toll-free number. We are located in Denver, Colorado, but we do, like I said before, work with both U.S. and Canadian students. So I guess we'll just kind of open up for questions. So let's see. I know most people have some issues with sound. So there is in your GoToWebinar section, there is a space for you to type in questions. So let's go ahead and start getting some questions typed in. So we'll kind of wait for those to come through. How's that sound to you guys? Oh,
Sounds great. Thanks, Kim.
cool. Okay. Okay, so our first question is, it's from Sandy. Does the program offer field work or internship opportunities?
Okay. Hi, Sandy. Good that you could join us for this. Sorry about the timing as well. Those that I sent the invite to, daylight savings in New Zealand made me think it was an hour earlier than it was. So apologies for that. And Sandy, apologies for that. I know who you are. And sorry about that. But field work opportunities.
Yeah. While it's not a requirement of the program, there are a number of voluntary associations active in New Zealand. Some of them also have international connections, and some of our students join them to do voluntary service. But it's not a requirement of the program. The program is already very full. We only have one full year to do all those courses plus the dissertation. But we encourage our students to explore opportunities to enrich their CVs. And one way to do that would be to join one of the many local volunteer associations here in New Zealand. If you do choose a topic in which you have to do some field work, of course we would encourage you to do that, but you'll have to understand that the cost of that field work would be for the account of the student, and the program can't finance field work, but there's nothing that prevents you from doing field work as long as you can fit it in your one-year schedule.
So that would be maybe the 60 points research dissertation.
Part of that,
if
yes.
you were doing that
Yeah.
in an application to an NGO or something like this.
Sure, there's something. Say, for instance, you want to do research on aid practices in the Pacific, South Pacific. World Vision is a local body here in New Zealand that does a lot of work in the South Pacific, and some of our students in the past have done short internships with them during holiday times, and then use their insights to enrich their own dissertation. So that's possible. But it's, as I said before, it's not a requirement that you need to do that.
Okay.
Great. The next question is from Catherine. Are there marketable careers for those who get their international studies degree?
Our students, our alumni, we try and keep track of them, and my impression is it's not based on a hard and fast study that we've done, but we get the impression that within 9 to 12 months after they're completed, they all found interesting and rewarding jobs in a variety of fields. These fields would cover public office, for instance. Here in New Zealand we have a Ministry of Foreign Affairs and Trade, and some of the other ministries also have international offices or international angles, and our students would apply to that. That would apply also in the United States and in other countries of the world as well. So I would say public service would be one area in which there are quite a number of job opportunities. Journalism is another field. Some of our students have gone into journalism and have been quite successful both in written journalism, newspaper, but also in television and other forms. Of course, those jobs are to get them quite a competitive process, but the fact that you've had exposure to the world and that you can have shown that you can do research at an advanced level gives you that edge, I would say, when you apply for one of those positions. Then we also have a number of students who went into business, business giving the international focus that business has these days. I think it's quite a strong requirement that successful business people or people involved in business should have at least an understanding of what's going on in the broader global context. And then we've also have people who've joined universities. And Will is a good example of that. He works in an international office. All universities these days have international offices, so some of our students have gone into what we would call international education and the management of international education. So yes, there are quite a number of job opportunities. It's not a situation where the program can guarantee that you will find a good job, but our experience is that our own students, within a year after they've completed their degree, do find exciting and rewarding jobs.
Great. Thanks so much. Okay. The next question is from Kirsten. Could you please compare the University of Otago Master of International Studies with comparable degrees outside New Zealand, such as in Australia? Are there comparable degrees? Why select University of Otago, say, over the University of Melbourne?
Yes, as I said, there are a number of, well, international studies is an accepted field of study internationally. My own experience of various universities is that in most of the places, however, the emphasis is very heavily on what we would call international relations, which is a subfield of political science. Mm. So, for instance, at the University of Victoria here in Wellington, the capital city of New Zealand, they do have a Masters of International Relations. At ANU University, they would have a Master of International Studies, but again, it's heavily slanted towards the field of international relations, which, as I say, is a subfield of international of political science. So I think we are pretty unique in this part of the world in terms of what we offer, this multidisciplinary focus. There are similar programs elsewhere in the world, in the UK and in North America, and even these days in Europe, continental Europe. But I think in this part of the world, Australasia, our program is pretty unique, given our strong focus on 4 separate disciplines, and we don't see ourselves as belonging to political science, a subfield of political science.
Mm.
Great.
So would there be any master's degrees in the US that you could say this is more comparable to, in particular universities?
Yeah, well, most universities in the US, I think even at the University of Colorado at Denver, there's a taught master's degree in international studies.
Yeah.
And Harvard would have one, as far as I know. There's in the California system, there are quite a few of them with a strong focus on the Pacific area, of course. So now it's quite a general degree. Now, I can't speak for all of them, and I can't guarantee that all of them would have this multidisciplinary focus that we have. As I say, there is a branch of this type of study that sees itself as part of political science. And I think we try and distinguish ourselves clearly from that field. So yes, there are similar programs in the UK as well. Durham, for instance, they would call it, I think, a Master of Global Studies there. So it's not uncommon, but as I say, in this part of the world, I think we are pretty unique.
Okay, great. The next question is from Sandy. How many of your alumni in this program were from overseas? And then how many current students do you have from overseas or outside New Zealand?
I would say about a fifth over the years. Since I've been involved, we've every year had quite a sizable portion of the class from overseas. We've had students from Malaysia, we've had students from Nigeria, other parts of Africa. We have students, a student in the class from Eritrea at the moment, for instance, apart from the Chinese and Canadian student that Will mentioned before. So I would say about a fifth, 20% of our student body comes from overseas.
Quite a diverse range of nationalities too.
Yes.
I've noticed it's across the world, and they bring something special and something unique to the classes, which, yeah, that's something special about this program in particular at Otago.
Yes, and we've had quite a number of German students, 2 French students as far as I can recall. We've had 1 Spanish student. I think one area in the world we've not been successful in attracting students would be Latin America, South America, but we're working on that. But apart from that area, we're quite diverse. It's quite a cosmopolitan atmosphere in the class, which makes it very interesting when we get to these simulation type exercises. And we force students to play roles that would differ from the country or the state from which they come. So it's another way to learn about how people from other countries look at the world, and students enjoy that experience.
Great. Sandy has one last question. What are the estimated total costs for 1 year, including tuition, lodging, meals, fees, etc.?
Yeah. So the tuition fee for this year, we can't guarantee what next year will be, but it's 25,000 New Zealand dollars for 1 year, for the entire course. So that's 12 months. That is quite a reasonable tuition fee compared with the other master degrees that we have at Otago, and we worked really hard. Philip worked very hard to get that tuition fee at a reasonable level, so it's going to be affordable for students from a wide range of countries, not just students who are going to be well funded. The other thing is living costs. New Zealand, to get a visa for New Zealand, they recommend that you have 15,000 New Zealand dollars to cover living expenses, so housing and food and everything like that. So we'd recommend about 15,000 New Zealand dollars, which at the exchange rate today is it's around about 13,000 US dollars. So 13,000 US plus around 22,000, 35,000 US dollars would cover tuition plus living costs for the 12-month period. That's what we would estimate.
Mm-hmm. Great.
International students do manage to get jobs on the sly as well sometimes. So some of them do work as waitresses or get some income, but it's not something that you can bank on. So I think
that's right.
You have to make sure that you do have sufficient funds, 35,000.
Yeah. So with student visas, you're allowed to work 20 hours per week, and also during the holiday periods for 40 hours. So most of your time will be studying, but that does also help as well if you can secure a job here in Dunedin.
Great. Yep, and just so everyone knows, on that student visa, they can work, right? Well, they can work 20 hours a week?
That's right.
Yep.
Yeah, which includes being a tutor, say in one of the undergraduate politics courses. Say if you have a political science background, you may apply to become a tutor, say in our first year introductory courses to political science.
Great. Great, and it looks like we have one last question from Ryan, and he has asked, I have been to the Otago website and looked at the master's degree in peace and conflict. I notice it mentions relations between New Zealand and its neighbors. Is that just a specialty area within peace and conflict, or is that the whole focus of the peace and conflict program?
Well, I'm not really qualified to speak on that specific program. What I can say is that we're very fortunate to have the National Center for Peace and Conflict Studies based here at New Zealand, based here at Otago. It covers the whole of New Zealand and its relations with the outside world as far as peace and conflict research and the promotion of peace is concerned. We've included that center and their excellent teaching staff in our program, the Master of International Studies. They present one of the 4 taught courses, but they do also run their own postgraduate master's degree where students specialize more in things such as peacekeeping, the promotion of peaceful relations within societies and also between societies. But it's probably best to contact that national center for more information. We have a very good working relationship with them, and as I say, they enrich our program by offering one of the four taught courses.
Yeah. So this is a Master of International Studies is broader than just peace and conflict. So that's what we're looking at here. On that as well, if you're looking at where graduates have found work, I think you've got something on the website there too, Philip, about where students have found work in the past, so with NGOs or with governments around the world. When you do graduate from this degree, you can apply to New Zealand Immigration for a one-year working visa without having jobs already secured. So if you do want to stay in New Zealand, you can apply for that one-year working visa and then seek work in New Zealand if you would like.
Yeah, and if you want more information, I can always put you in contact with some of our ex-students, our alumni, so you can ask them how did they experience the study program, how easy was it for them to find work afterwards, what are they doing now. So please contact me and I will put you in touch with students from the UK or from North America who've gone through the program before.
Right. Great. I think that's it. So thank you, Will and Professor Nell. This is wonderful and very informative. This has definitely helped me quite a bit, so we can definitely chat with future students. And then, Will, would you mind sending me Professor Phillips' email address?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Great.
we can do
In
that.
case any students want to follow up. I have also recorded this webinar, so I will be sending it out. So Will, I'll definitely send you a copy to pass on to your contacts as well. And thank you both very much, and thank you everyone for attending, and I hope you found this very informative.
Great. Thank you very much.
Thanks
Great.
for arranging it.
Have a great day.
Cheers.
Bye.
Goodbye.